Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 2D6 Friday, episode 21. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Now, you might be able to tell, but my voice isn't quite in peak condition tonight. I think I've got a little bit of a cold that's been brewing up slowly for the last few days. Who knows where it will lead? Has it already peaked? Is it going to start dwindling back down to full health? We shall find out over the next few days. So I don't know how long this show is going to last. We have started pretty much dead on time. So if my voice holds up, we may end up going a full hour. And we do have some quite voice-stressing segments later in the show, particularly part 2 of the spooky Halloween story, which I started last week. And I know people... There are a lot of bed sheets were changed, I'll just say that, last Friday. And I imagine it's going to be pretty much the same this week. So I would recommend anyone who is watching from bed should put some kind of plastic sheeting down on their bed, because it's going to be getting... I'm not sure I really want to use the word moist at this stage. At this point in the show, it's a little bit early for that. Let's see who's in the audience, shall we? We have got Andrew Wade, Bazooka J Rambo, Darkbeard 89, Dice Miniature Paint Guy, Dreaming Cyborg, Gloomdready Gaming, Mickey Genba, Ruhark, Rural Goblin, Santiago Horse Frail. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that 100% correctly. Was Gob. Anyone else has popped up in the last few minutes? There was someone else in there earlier chatting away. A couple of people, Brendan Duffy, for example, who just haven't commented in the last few minutes, so got mentioned despite not being on the active users list, so they should feel very, very fortunate. So, first things first, I have finally done it, ladies and gentlemen. I finally made the switch. Google Chrome. If there are no issues with this Hangout, then I'll be very, very pleased, and I'll probably stick with Google Chrome, because until very recently I didn't have any issues with Firefox at all. And then it would occasionally start to crash. Just tabs would just crash for no reason. So obviously that's not ideal when doing live shows. So I thought, well, I also have Opera. How about I use that for live shows? But it seems that whenever I use Opera, there is a very strange glitch where it'll occasionally start recording audio before the Hangout goes live and then desync the video by about 5 or 10 minutes and start playing audio from before the show was even on the air, which boggles the mind, and it just proves that Google are spies. So that happened twice, and I had to download those videos, fix it, and then re-upload them. So I immediately uninstalled Opera after that incident, and we're going 100% Chrome right now. Apparently Dreddy says that Chrome is the only one that works. Yep, lots of Google Chrome fans in the audience tonight by the looks of it. Rural Goblin is a big fan of Chrome, so we'll see how that goes. Hopefully we don't have any more bizarre glitches going on. Bazooka J Rambo, the power of the Google overlords. Yep, Google do have a bit of a reputation for tinkering with things that don't really need tinkering with. The one they're messing with at the moment is Google+, and they've completely hidden certain features that I used regularly, such as the chat feature, the text chat feature on Google+, which is quite hard to find now. It's much easier to find it through Google Mail for some reason. Anyway, so first of all, well, it's not really first of all. The first of all was that we're using Google Chrome now. Second of all, what have I been working on? Well, between having a sore throat and occasionally sneezing and so on, I have been working on some miniatures, which I'm going to show you right now. So look at this bad boy. Let's see if the camera will focus on the aberration. Come on, I'll get it right up to the camera. That is pretty much focused, isn't it? There we go. You can see there's a bit of green stuff in some of the crevices, and I'm not sure whether that's entirely down to the manufacturing process, because I also bent parts of the model into different shapes from the way they're originally intended. For example, this front arm here, I think it's supposed to be a bit more rigid, and I've bent it a bit with hot water, so maybe that stopped it fitting quite so snugly, so I've had to put a bit of green stuff in there. But lots of Plague action for Dead Zone going on here. We've got the likes of the Plague Teraton. I'm not even going to bother trying to get all of these to focus because it'll take too long. Might focus on this guy. I made this trooper, and he's supposed to look like he's just going absolutely nuts with a flamethrower. and I think I've pulled off that look quite well. Like he's just going, flames spurting out the end. So I think he looks cool. Loads and loads of plague zombies. And I'll just show you this one because I think he looks quite funny. He's hitting himself in the face with a rifle. Maybe he's just suffering a lot of pain. He's not eating his brains today. So he's just going to beat himself senseless. There's going to be a load of blood splattering out of there. And let's see. Oh yeah, one interesting thing actually. Let's compare the old and the new. I'm going to do a video on all this stuff in more detail very, very soon. But Mantic Plague miniatures, look at the difference in the size of the head from the old to the new. They've definitely gone more GW-like in their head and hand sizes on these new models, particularly the heads. You can probably tell which is the old one with the tiny little head, and that was a loud firework. Someone doing fireworks in the rain, that seems not very wise. Anyway, you get the idea with that. And some of it in restic, some of it in actual real plastic. And the real plastic ones are the ones that have the larger heads, so maybe there's a manufacturing reason for that. If anyone has any in-depth knowledge of plastic manufacturing and sprue creation, then let me know. Let's see. Any interesting comments coming in? People like the flamethrower trooper. Yes, I've got a flamethrower, I've got a grenade launcher and a heavy machine gun already. I've got a ton of other options on the sprue, actually. I'm not sure how many of them you can actually make, though, because there's only a certain number of arms to connect on each gun. And another very spooky firework there. Now, let me just check the date. It's the 4th of November. I don't remember the 4th of November being a thing, so I don't think we're supposed to have fireworks tonight. I think people are supposed to be saving those for tomorrow, unless there's something I'm not aware of. Anyway, if they get too loud, let me know, and I won't do anything about it. So, what else have I been doing? Well, last weekend I played some games. I played Age of Sigmar on Saturday, and I was supposed to be playing 40k on Sunday with 3 people, one of whom in the end couldn't make it. So I decided that I'd show them how to play Dead Zone and Age of Sigmar instead. And they were suitably impressed by those game systems and definitely got some more local opponents now for Dead Zone and hopefully Age of Sigmar as well, so that'll be nice. It's a bit lucky that I didn't have to play 40k actually, because I hadn't even made a list or anything. With that particular game, I usually leave everything until the last minute and then just throw out whatever I've got to hand, because I'm really, really waiting and itching for them to either Age of Sigmarify it or somehow tinker with it. Let's see, Fluffy Dread is in the house. That's a grenade launcher going off. It could well be. I don't know. I don't think this area is particularly famed for heavy firearms. I don't think I've ever heard any kind of gunshots around here. Although I wouldn't know, because I'd just assume they were fireworks if I've never heard a real gunshot in person, only on TV. Okay, so people have been feverishly anticipating what the title of this show is all about. So £10 for head. I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about right now. Here we go. So on the old Forge World website, it's pretty much the only interesting new releases that I could find for this week. And before we get to the heads, the dice are interesting to me because, again, there's a lack of consistency across the Games Workshop brand. So, Legion dice, and look what it says. Each die features the Legion's symbol embossed in place of the 6, so your opponent will know when their number's up. Yes, that's the way it should be, GW. So why do all your non-Forge World dice still have the symbols in place of the 1? They've even given the reason, because when you're rolling a 6, it's usually good. Most dice rolls, you're trying to roll higher. I'd say 80 or 90% of the time, you're trying to roll high numbers in Games Workshop games. So why on earth do they not put all the symbols on the 6s? That's when you should be celebrating when your symbol comes up. You shouldn't have to see your particular army or chapter symbol come up and then be cursing your luck. That's not what you want at all. Maybe if there's one particular faction that's unlucky, I don't know, a Nurgle particularly unlucky maybe, but I think they need a bit of consistency across their range there. I've talked about that before, but they still haven't changed it. Dino Titan Edition is in the house. Okay, here we go. £10 for a head. Imperial Knight heads. I think there are 4 of them. So let's have a look. It's just going to be a big chunk of resin, pretty much, isn't it? So there you go, £10 for that. Now, I bring this up mainly because last week, I think it was last week, I was looking at the Warlord Games website and they had individual turrets that were about £12. And I'd say these are probably comparable in size to those turrets. So I don't think GW are too ridiculous in their pricing here. I think £10, it's not too insane. If anyone has any feelings on their pricing strategy here, then let me know. But I don't think it's too silly. I think they look pretty cool if someone wants to make their Imperial Knight look different. Whether you could not achieve any of this stuff with the standard head and a tiny bit of conversion is a totally different matter, though. I don't think it'd be that difficult to make them look somewhat like this. But interesting. £10, I don't think it's too horrendous. Certainly not by the standards of some of their other products. But the title of this video is really a direct quote from someone that I sent a link to this because they're fans of Imperial Knights, and someone was exclaiming £10 for head and then like a shocked face. So they were obviously not enthralled by that pricing structure. Bazooka J Rambo says how to push, they're worth £4. I don't know, are they small? Imperial Knight heads, they're not that tiny, are they? I suppose they're maybe a little bit smaller than a tank turret, but I wouldn't have expected them to be any cheaper. Maybe if they came in a pack of Imperial Knight heads, like 3 for £15 or something. But that would be a bit cheap, I think. Yeah, it's not too crazy. Brendan Duffy thinks it's a letdown and expected better for £10. Well, yeah, I don't suppose they're that completely covered in detail, are they? There's a bit, but they're not insanely detailed by any means. As far as whether they actually look good or not, I think that one looks quite nice with the 3 little eyeball thingies there. I'm not so keen on that one. That one, and the 4th one, I don't really like that one. Not so keen on that swirly bit in the middle. It seems like the eye should be open there rather than closed, or partially open. Okay, and let's see. Bazooka J Rambo, nicely detailed but not amazing. Dice Miniature Paint Guy says have a Kroot standing on top of its head. Yeah, you could make a Tau Imperial Knight if you want, just have a Kroot standing on it. That'd be an interesting army to do, actually. Like Kroot with looted things, Orc style, but they're Kroot. Might be fun. Anyway, let's get off this now. And I think that might be the last piece of screen sharing action we've got for today. Because, obviously, I didn't know whether I was either going to do the show. Well, I suspected I was going to do the show, even if I had literally no voice. Even if I had to sound like this, I probably would have done the show. But it wouldn't have gone on for that long, so I didn't prepare a vast number of topics. So I put it to the audience to suggest some topics and to ask some questions. So let's see what we've got, shall we? First of all, this is on Facebook. The link to the Facebook group is, as always, in the description if anyone has yet to join. This is from Jeremy. Facebook or forums? When it comes to posting wargaming content and general discussion, which platform is the best? What do you prefer, and what are the positives and negatives of using/choosing either? Secondly, which forums or groups do you suggest? Forums are very much a dying art. They were all the rage in the early 2000s, and they've been somewhat replaced by all the other kind of all-encompassing social media now, like your Facebooks and your Twitters, where you can be following multiple things on one site, rather than having a separate forum for each one of your interests. If there's something you're crazily into, I would imagine you would still join a forum. The only ones that I'm currently involved in any way are the Mantic forum, which I don't post on that much, mainly just to promote all my various Kings of War Dead Zone stuff. And there is, of course, the Grand Alliance forum as well for Age of Sigmar. I haven't posted too much on there, but that's kind of similar. But I don't think I would be too interested in registering with any new forums even though they do have positives. The positives to a forum, of course, being that the archives are easily searchable on Facebook or any other social media. Things tend to drop really fast, and it's difficult to find them because there's kind of a lack of search feature compared to forums where it's a lot more easy to find things. So if you're kind of archiving your work, then other than just making a photo album on Facebook, which is quite easy, if you're just thinking of posting them in a group, rather than that, actually putting them on a forum in a topic that's there permanently and isn't just going to slide 3 years down the page in about 2 minutes, then a forum is ideal for that sort of thing. And Facebook is, of course, good for numbers because everyone's already on Facebook pretty much. You don't have to draw people over to a separate site at all. Rural Goblin Facebook groups on Facebook are great. Yeah, they generally are. It's, like I said, it's only really an issue if you're trying to archive something. Dreddy says, I mostly stopped using either. I mostly just don't feel the urge to share my hobby stuff as much anymore. Yeah, when you have a YouTube channel, there's maybe less of an urge to post about all that stuff on the various outlets. As far as Facebook groups, though, of course, everyone should be joining the Andy and Rem Show Facebook group, as Mickey suggests, and linked under this one, you'll find the link to the Andy 2D6 Orange Wargaming Facebook group, which is a hoot. I don't know why I said that. There's not a particularly heavy owl presence in there or anything, so it's not like that was even a joke. But I did used to enter a lot of forums. I spent many, many, many years browsing a few particular forums on certain topics that were of interest to me at those times that maybe I'm not as interested in anymore. Outside of wargaming, I do still visit various sports forums. I find that those are probably way better than Facebook for certain things. The way Facebook tends to work, it attracts, when it comes to sports, it attracts a lot of people that have very little knowledge on the topic. So also kind of people that have kind of just discovered the particular sports team in the last few years will sign up on Facebook. So you'll see a lot of people kind of in broken English that don't really seem to know that much about it, like posting in all caps. They're getting really excited. They just don't seem to have that much knowledge on the topic. Whereas forums, they're usually a bit more insular, and there's kind of less of those kind of casual fans from outside, I would say. If you have to be pretty hardcore nowadays to join a forum, not like it was back a few years ago. So yeah, it's mainly non-wargaming forums that I visit nowadays. And for wargaming, most of my content that I digest from wargaming is through YouTube and Facebook, pretty much. I don't even interact with Twitter that much, to be honest. I should probably do a bit more on there. But usually if I think something's worth posting, I'll put it on Facebook. Things that I would have previously put on Twitter, actually, I've started putting into the Facebook groups now. And there's some quite healthy communities brewing along there. Dreddy says, I like the sports team that kicks the ball a lot. Yeah, the team that kicks the ball a lot is usually quite successful. If they kick it more than the other team, chances are they're going to do something successful with it. Let's see. Rural Goblin really likes Facebook groups. And Dice Miniature Paint Guy is about to post an owl on the Facebook group. Well, if you needed any more reasons to join, there you go. You could be the first one to see that picture of an owl. In fact, when he posts that picture of an owl, I would like everyone to reply with pictures of owls. If you can post pictures of owl miniatures, then that's just a bonus. Let's make it an owl zone tonight, because there is going to be an element of spookiness later on. So, anything else on this topic? Facebook groups versus forums. Overall, Facebook groups win. You just have access to a lot more people. You don't have to have multiple tabs open. If you're on your phone as well, it must be a nightmare trying to navigate lots of different forums, whereas you can just open up Facebook and you've got notifications for all the 1,000 different groups that you're in. And then you can always turn off notifications for the ones that don't interest you, which I usually end up doing, and just focusing on a certain number for the particular games I'm interested in at that time. So Facebook definitely winning. If anyone has any suggestions for other areas of social media that are even better than Facebook, perhaps, then let me know. But I've not really sampled too much outside of Facebook and Twitter. I've never touched Instagram, but I'm pretty sure that's mainly just for pictures. So I'm sure that a lot of wargamers have Instagram where they'll kind of archive all their painting progress and so on. Bazooka J Rambo says, "I'll be back." Excellent. Okay, let's have a look at the next question. So this is from Matt. What do you think would be the best way of going about setting up a local gaming group? We have a local board game store, but they hate GW and tabletop stuff because of GW's past business practices. Well, let's start off with this very specific scenario. Setting up a local gaming group somewhere. There's already a community for board games, but they hate GW, and it would be very, very difficult to get them into GW. Thankfully, there are an awful lot of game companies out there, and a lot of those game companies have kind of the gateway games that bridge the gap between board games and wargaming. For example, your dungeon sagas and so on. So if you were to slowly work them towards those kind of dungeon crawly games, get into something like Dungeon Saga, and then you could say, well, that was a fascinating story. How about we continue it on the tabletop here, on the battlefield, with the vast armies that are now invading to attack the lair of this necromancer that we just failed to kill in his little abode there. So that's definitely one way of going about it. If you are really desperate to get them into GW stuff, then I suppose you could always kind of trick them by getting them into one of the new GW board games, and just don't tell them that Games Workshop produced it until they're already fully invested in it, and then kind of do the big reveal when they find out they've been playing a GW game all this time. They might just murder you on the spot for that, but probably not. Dreaming Cyborg doesn't have Instagram. Yeah, I don't know too many people that are on Instagram, as far as I know. Darkbeard89, X-Wing is a good gateway game. Yes. However, is there really a Star Wars kind of massed battle or even skirmish game? Aren't they all kind of board gamey? But yeah, X-Wing is a good one. Rural Goblin, Blood Bowl. Yes, Blood Bowl is another good one. Getting people into certain universes. And there's like a tier system, isn't there? You start off with the most board gamey of games, and then you work up onto the massed battle game. So you'd start off, you'd have your kind of Blood Bowl, then you get more into kind of the fighty aspect if you go for something like Mordheim, and then you go up again, and you're getting right towards kind of Warhammer kind of territory now. With 40k, you got those new boxed games that people seem to think are okay, but never actually play them. They mainly just buy them for all the Space Marines in them. So maybe they could be a way as well. And then if you can get them to paint their own Space Marines, they've suddenly got half an army without even realizing it. Dino Titan Edition says it's kind of a hybrid there too, since Blood Bowl was mostly developed by the community afterwards, even though the brand is Games Workshop. Yeah, I think that's fair. Blood Bowl is indeed a heavily community-driven thing, which is why they're not tinkering with it too much when they're re-releasing it. Brendan Duffy, our native owl is called a moor pork. Is it really? That's very strange, if true. If it's some kind of joke about owls eating pigs, then I don't think it's that funny. Because pigs, while they are delicious, they should also be celebrated. Mickey Jenber's owl is dividing opinion, apparently. Well then. So, anything else on this one? Setting up local gaming groups. Well, I think you shouldn't have too much trouble if you've already got people into board games. Like I said, just use the gateway games. For people that don't have any kind of gaming community at all, not even board games, they just don't have a nerd in sight, then I could see it being an absolute nightmare if you just stuck out in the middle of nowhere, maybe in a small town, and you're the only person that's into wargaming or gaming of any kind, really. So if anyone's ever been in that situation, how did you combat that? Other than just using the internet and connecting with people who are slightly further away, which is still a little bit awkward. But if anyone's been faced with that particular dilemma and tackled it head on, then give us the info. Okay, let's see what's next. Mickey Genver was wondering whether there will be any more of the Spoopy story. We want to know what happened to the newbie. Yes, part 2 of the Spooky story will be coming up shortly, and it's going to be quite riveting. Let's see. Daniel says, why is there not enough time to play all the games I want to play? Well, isn't that the eternal dilemma for everybody? There's so many game systems and so little time, or maybe so little opponents, and you can't convince your local people to play every single game. Sometimes you're lucky if you can get them playing one game. So let's see, what am I currently actively playing on a regular basis? We've got Age of Sigmar, we've got Kings of War, Dead Zone, 40k, I suppose. I don't play that as often, but it's still semi-regular occurrence. So those are pretty much the 4 main ones at the moment. There are other games that are just kind of waiting for interest to be sparked up locally again, like Relics, Drop Zone Commander, Bolt Action. And there are some people around here that play Bolt Action. I just haven't really had time to jump onto that. And I was waiting for 2nd edition, so I need to get into that at some point. Skeleton Flower is here, in the house. Fluffy Dread. Kings of War is a fab recent discovery for me. Love it. Yep, Kings of War is an excellently made and it's an excellently made game, and the community is also excellent. It's not quite as hardcore as some of the other gaming communities out there, but it's a lot of fun indeed. Dice Miniature Paint Guy. My locals are hiding when I come with my stuff. I think I need to start using perfume. Well, that could be an issue if you have kind of the wargamer odor and you're trying to convince people to play the games with you. Then make sure you scrub off all that stench first of all. Brendan Duffy is a big fan of Kings of War. Okay, where were we? Bazooka J. Rambo wanted to know, how did I catch my cold? Well, I don't know, but every couple of weeks I do go to football matches that have like 50,000 other people there. So that may have something to do with it, I would suspect. Anyone who's got any germs inside that stadium, it's got some way of working its way over to me, no doubt. Let's see. Well, people have been posting owls non-stop in the Facebook group. Let's have a look. Yes, people should certainly be checking out those owls. Top-notch hooting going on in there right now. Okay, let's see what other questions we've got here. Here's one from Santiago. Any comments on the new Harry Potter miniature game that Knight Models has announced? No rules or minis yet, though. I'm not a big fan of that saga, but seems promising for getting fresh blood into the hobby. Well, I can't say that I've ever read a word of a Harry Potter book or seen a full minute of any Harry Potter film. I haven't really consumed any of that universe whatsoever, but it's obviously very, very popular and makes bundles of cash non-stop. So a miniatures game would definitely reach a whole new audience, I would say. Just like whenever Star Wars does a miniatures game, X-Wing has been quite big for the hobby. So Harry Potter has the potential, and I imagine there are a lot of youngsters that are into Harry Potter, so if you can get them snagged early, before they've made conscious life choices of what their really expensive hobbies are going to be later in life, whether they're going to get into playing golf or doing drugs all the time, then if you can get them to be buying plastic and dice and paints instead, get them early, that could be a good thing. So I think it could definitely benefit the hobby in general if more people are flooding in, even if they're kind of looked down upon by the kind of elitist gamers who would say, well, you're only playing the Harry Potter game. The way some people would look down on X-Wing only players, even though you should be embracing them and kind of shifting them, embrace them in what they're playing, and then also expose them to the other game systems. Mini Warrior Knight should pick up Dread. Well, people do seem to like the Judge Dredd game, which is going away, seemingly. We talked about that a bit last week. Speaking of things we talked about last week, I was talking about Wayland Games, and they did actually respond to the comments I made. What I'd heard that I then put out there onto the YouTube was that they had a kind of tiered system of discount from GW. So certain items they potentially could hold off on sending you an order because they would wait a couple of weeks before ordering it and they could get it at a lower price. They have denied that that is the case. That's the official word coming out of Wayland Games. So step one to repairing their reputation has probably been undertaken there. I'm not sure how wide-reaching this particular video series is, though. So I'm sure they've got more work to do, because they do very much have a reputation as being very, very slow with their deliveries. And that's not really coming from me, because I haven't dealt with them that much as a company. That's just the word on the street. Whereas other companies tend to be known to be a lot quicker, and it's much more of a rarity to have any delays. Let's see. Brendan Duffy, like the My Little Pony Warlord games is bringing out. Are they bringing out a My Little Pony miniatures game? I know there's a My Little Pony role-playing game. I hadn't heard about a miniatures game. That could definitely do very well. And that would bring in, I would say it would bring in entirely new demographics, but I'm not even sure, because there seem to be a lot of wargamers that are very much into My Little Pony already. If you look at any of the 40k groups, you see Space Marines with pony heads sticking out, dreadnoughts ripping ponies in half, rainbow guts flying everywhere. Dreddy says My Little Pony is an RPG. Yep, that's the one I was thinking of. But a miniatures game could be quite successful, I think. And if they're not going to do it officially, then someone will do something similar, and it could do very well. Okay, let's see what else we've got here. This is also from Santiago. By the way, tomorrow the Citadel Crusade starts. It is a card collecting promotion. You get some cards when you buy something in an official GW store. Spend 50 euros or more and you get a collecting file where you can put your cards. What's your opinion on this new GW approach? Well, I hadn't heard anything about that. But I would say how very, very 90s of them. Card collecting. Has that been a big thing for a while? I don't think it has. But it couldn't hurt, could it? Giving away collectible cards with purchases. I'm sure some people have fun with that. Does anyone know if there's a game attached to the cards, or whether it's purely collectible? Either way, it's just a little bit of fun that might get people to spend a bit more money if they want to complete their collection. It doesn't seem like something that's going to create new business necessarily. It's just a little way of giving people something that's not that expensive to create, but is a nice little collectible thing. So I think that's nice. That's probably going to be fun for various people out there that are into that kind of thing. Let's see, did we have any other specific questions on the old Facebook? Well, we've got a lot more owl pictures flooding in. So, in fact, I'm going to pick one now and show it to you. Here we go. This is just one example of the kind of owly goodness you can get if you join the Facebook group in the description. So let's call it Owl. Okay, here we go. About to screen share a picture of an owl. Boom. What do you think of that, folks? This is the kind of sizzling content you're missing out on if you're not a member of the Facebook group. If anyone starts posting owls in any other topics, then I'm sure it will be swiftly deleted, but we are allowing this one owl thread to continue. So there you go. This is what you could be exposed to if you join that Facebook group. And that's quite enough of that. So let's see, we've been going for about 35 minutes now. And my voice is holding up all right so far. A little bit of throat soreness, but there's not too much kind of graveliness in the voice. I don't want to destroy it too much, because I'm supposed to be doing stuff this weekend. I was supposed to be playing a game of Kings of War this week, but I thought I'd best not risk it. I wasn't really in a position to talk too much yesterday. And then I may be having a game of Kings of War on Sunday, and then maybe another one during next week. So hopefully my voice won't have been too destroyed by this hardcore commitment to the audience to put out these live shows in the face of serious adversity. Dice Miniature Paint Guy says, Owly McOwlface. Yes, Owly McOwlface indeed. Okay, so I think it's actually time for the spookiest of the spooky stories to have its conclusion. We've talked wargaming for long enough. It's time. So I'm going to go and turn off the light now. And then it's time to commence. Anyone who missed the first installment of the spooky story, I won't be too angry if you decide to stop the video here and go and watch that first and then come back. But anyone who did watch last week's show in its entirety will be pretty much wetting themselves in anticipation right now. It's going to be quite terrifying. I hope someone's got a blanket to cuddle up to, maybe a little teddy bear that they have for security. If you're in a room and all the lights are off, you may want to turn them on. If you're in the same house as your parents, you may want to go and like nuzzle up to them while you're watching this, because it's going to be quite scary. Once I turn off this light, there's no going back, folks. Here we go. Now, it's actually still somewhat light because of the monitor on me, but it's not too light, is it? It's still quite terrifying. Very well. I'm not going to hold the phone up to my face this time, because I don't think it really worked last time. So here we go. 5 years have passed since the incident. No one believed Mickey, you see, when she told these tall tales of a mysterious, slithering, hideous, grotesque, newbie beast in the woods. She was locked up in an insane asylum, ranting endlessly until heavily sedated. Weeks, months passed. She did not subside. She did not give in. She refused to admit that nothing had happened, for in her mind it truly did. She witnessed a massacre, although all her friends mysteriously came back to life, including her best friend Margaret. She now wore a straitjacket every single day, was given injections, pills. Occasionally, archaic methods such as electroshock treatment were employed. This was not a nice place. Mickey often lived in a padded room. And once she was sedated and fell asleep, this is where the real nightmare began, for the newbie beast haunted her dreams. But at least in her dreams, she knew it was not real. It couldn't hurt her. Or could it? After 5 years, Mickey began to tire of keeping up the argument that what she had witnessed was real and her experiences were not in her imagination. She still wore the scar on her leg from tripping in the forest. The doctors were never going to believe her. Perhaps it was time that she played along, perhaps get released, integrate back into society, see her family again that she hadn't seen for so many years, see Margaret, who was indeed still alive and not dead. Perhaps it was time. As the nurse made his rounds with her medication, Mickey decided to speak up. She said, "I'm ready. I'm ready to accept that I'm crazy. I invented all of it." The nurse gave her a look. She hadn't seen this nurse before. It was a male nurse with long flowing hair. She looked at his name tag, and it said S. Flower. He looked back at her, seemingly unimpressed with her revelation, and he said, "I'm here to give you your injection, Mickey." And he plunged the needle into her arm, injecting whatever cruel concoction the doctors had cooked up to keep this patient under control. She began to slowly drift off. Her eyelids closed, then opened, then closed, then opened, and finally closed. She entered the land of Nod, the place that the newbie beast haunted. She found herself in the woods, the same woods where the attack had taken place. The very same. Corpses littered the ground, blood and entrails strewn about the place, and hulking, shambling shadows moving in the forest. Usually, the dream ended once she was caught by the beast, and she would wake up in a cold sweat, screaming out, being restrained by nurses as she attempted to thrash around and rip her straitjacket to shreds. This time, she had another idea. Perhaps if she confronts the beast and attempts to fight it rather than fleeing, perhaps that would yield a different outcome. She looked down and almost willed into existence a bazooka. She picked up the bazooka, placed it on her shoulder, and began to stalk her prey. She heard twigs snapping, trees being bowled over, and screams as humans were ripped apart in the woods. She caught a glimpse of a huge, hideous shadow coming towards her, and she at once fired the bazooka. Unfortunately, not being trained in military weaponry, she fired it backwards and hit a tree. The shadowy beast lunged at her, clawed her face, and she awoke. Or at least, she thought she awoke. Something was strange about her padded room. The door was ajar. Bloody footprints led out into the corridor, and her straitjacket had been loosened. It all seemed so real. But was it? There was only one way to find out. She removed her straitjacket. She peered out into the corridor. All was dark save for a couple of flickering lights. She made her way down the corridor, peeking into the various rooms. Most of them contained nothing, but occasionally she would see a padded room much like her own, encasing some lunatic or other. Many of them incredibly dangerous looking. None of their doors were ajar. She made her way towards one particularly bright light at the end of the corridor, and slowly nudged the door open, peering around. She saw doctors and nurses huddled round a picture. She couldn't make out what it was. One of the doctors suddenly turned, looked directly at her, but did not react, made his way towards the door, pushed open the other side of the double door, seemingly completely ignoring her. Was she invisible, perhaps? Was this indeed a dream? She stepped out into the room, as if to test her theory. She moved into the middle of the huddle of doctors and nurses. None of them reacted to her presence. She looked at the picture. It was a picture of her best friend Margaret, head torn clean off, limbs eviscerated, organs spilt. And they were laughing, giggling, cackling, chortling, chuckling. She didn't quite know what to make of this, but she began to back away, feeling a cold chill down her spine. She made her way back towards her padded room. Oddly, this was a place she felt safe, for she had never experienced any kind of noobish visitation in this chamber, only when she slept. She slipped back into her straitjacket, closed her eyes, and attempted to reset the situation. She dreamt again of being in the woods alone with the beast. This time she knew which direction to point the bazooka. The same series of events transpired, the twig snapping, the screeching. She saw the shadow and fired. This time it seemed to make impact on its target. Hideous blobs of blubber splattered about the forest, onto the trees, onto her face. She wiped one away from her eye. It was hideous and pulsating. And then she woke. In her cell, the door was closed, her straitjacket was firmly attached. There were no bloody footprints. Everything seemed to be back to normal, until the door creaked open, and a doctor peered his head around. It was a familiar doctor, one she'd seen many times before. "So, Mickey, I hear you're ready to accept that you're a lunatic, eh?" Mickey nodded, remembering the conversations she had had with the nurse the previous day. "Well, I'm sorry, Mickey, but I think you're trying to play the system," he said. "In fact, we've brought in a specialist. Someone who's sure to cure you in no time. He's dealt with the likes of you before, you see." Mickey looked up in anticipation. A hand reached around the inside of the door, and the doctor spoke again. "Say hello to Dr. Newby." There we go. It's all over. What a shocking and unexpected twist, ladies and gentlemen. Truly one for the ages. Let's see what people have been saying in the chat. No, there was not a squigfoot. People were actually impressed by my skeleton flower impression. I think it was very, very accurate. Okay, I'm just going to give people a few seconds to recover from that, because I can understand that maybe the pulses are racing. Darkbeard89, mind blown. Yes, you may notice that Newbie isn't even in the chat right now. Do you know why that could be? Maybe he's right behind you. No, I don't want to scare you too much. But next time you hear that tapping at the window, you never know. It could be the beast. Right, let's have a look. Some more owl pictures I think have popped up. Oh, we've got a request to join the Facebook group that's been accepted. Let's see, do we have more owlage? Yes, we do. Oh, let's have a look at this one, shall we? We're just going to have a look at this owl, and then I think we'll start bringing this episode to a screeching halt. Here we go, folks. We're about to look at some owls. Are you ready? Boom. There you go, look at that. I'm not even sure what is going on there. Is that owl pecking out the other one's eye, or is it cleaning it? They're very strange creatures, aren't they? Owls. They have very expressive faces, but I'm not sure whether their facial expressions actually match what we would consider to be their mood. I know, for example, with dogs and cats, you can't judge their mood on their facial expression the same way you would a human. There are big differences. So I would imagine owls are very much the same. Just because this one here seems to be frowning, I'm sure it's not really kind of perturbed. Okay, that's enough owls for one night. Okay, anyone got anything else that we should touch on before we draw this episode to a close, before my voice gives up for the week? Hopefully not for the week. I realised I haven't had any kind of major illness or anything since I made the switch to 2 live shows a week, so I haven't really had to miss any. So if I get struck down with something, you would think it would last enough days for me to at least miss a show, but it hasn't happened yet. And I can always get people on standby to fill in for me if need be, I would hope. There's an idea. Instead of Blood Bowl, Owl. An Owl Blood Bowl team. I could go for that. Let's see. Dice Miniature Paint Guy thinks owls are really stupid. Well, that's a controversial view. Very, very controversial. I don't think you're going to have too much agreement here. This is kind of an owl fan club in the chat right now. You're not going to get much love with a comment like that, I'm afraid. Okay, folks. I think it's time to wrap this one up. We haven't quite done an hour, but I've got to preserve the old voice, you see. So I think that's quite enough. You've had quite enough entertainment and excitement. You've been enraptured and enthralled and entertained all at the same time, I'm sure. So what have I got planned for this week other than playing some games of Kings of War, hopefully? I've got the next episode of The Porkening, The Apocalypse, I still need to edit. I decided to put up the other Age of Sigmar Battle Report first because that was much quicker to edit. And what else have I got? I've got a couple of instructional videos that I want to do very, very soon, including the ways in which you can prevent spillage of your Citadel shade pots, because every day on Facebook there's a new one that's been knocked over, and I've got some top tips that could help people with that. Let's see, what else did I want to do? Yes, there's going to be something Dead Zone related, probably unboxing of the new Plague expansion and the Plague faction booster, which is where I got all these bad boys. And there's some bad girls as well, actually. The new Plague zombies, I think like 1 in 3 of the torsos are actually female. And you get a little head that looks more womanly than the rest as well. Let's see if you can see that. It's kind of got a hairstyle that's a bit more womanly. You can see it's definitely a lady chest there. They don't have their own arms or legs. So, yeah, that's a nice touch from Mantic there. Okay, folks, I think it's time to say goodnight. Druddy says that next Porkening will be grade A entertainment. Yes, it will. It may be the most intense battle in the entire Porkening saga. So, let's get onto this image. And let's see, any other comments? We are waiting for the Porkening. Will the racing pigs face off again? Yes, that is the next episode that's coming up. Just needs editing. The rematch of the century. Derek and Tequin will be racing for the second time. Derek, of course, this time has buckets of grease in his favour, which he was able to acquire. So whether that yields fruit remains to be seen. Let's see, anything else? Because I know for a fact these comments are going to get really, really entertaining as soon as I click stop broadcast. Anything? Skeleton Flower thinks Mickey is a fiend. Okay. I think we can end on that note then. So, I apologise for scaring everyone to death over the last 2 weeks. Next week, maybe in the next couple of weeks at some point, I'm going to have one of these 2d6 Fridays be a Dead Zone special, because there's a lot of exciting new stuff for the faction I actually play. So I'm going to talk to Mr. Coach again and see if I can get him on again. And we can analyse the new Plague stuff. I think that would be good for an episode. So, until next time, good night out there. Whatever you are. That's me coughing.